Hello and welcome to the GSBC podcast, proudly brought to you by the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce and Purple Bunny Marketing. I'm your host, Matt Taylor-Farrington from Purple Bunny Marketing, and today I am joined by Paul Ronis from Periscope Management Consulting. I almost forgot the last word.
Yep.
Welcome, Paul. Thank you for coming along and having a chat about what your business does.
Thank you.
Tell us about your journey. How did you end up running a consulting practice like Periscope Management, and what motivated you to focus on strategy, growth, and business transformation?
Well, great question. So, conceptually, where you start life and where you end up are not necessarily, I suppose, apparent to you in the beginning. And it was just a series of happenstance things that led me to start my life and career in the Northern Territory. And then one lucky break basically led to another lucky break, and so on and so on and so on.
Yes. Yes. And we actually had a chat a couple of weeks back, and you were telling me about some of your different career moves and things, and it was interesting to hear the different fields that you've worked in. And you've worked in some impressive internationally listed companies, family enterprises and government bodies. What lessons from those major engagements have I guess, surprised you when working with, I guess, comparatively to smaller and local business?
Okay, well, once again, it's a great question, but the further you go up the tree in any large organisation, it's always easier to think that it gets sharper, pointier and more brilliant. But the long and short of it is that big organisations aren't as sexy or as well run as you might think they would be.
Yes.
Okay. So conversely, but looking at the other end of it, big businesses have resources at hand, so they're quite quickly able to focus and draw people into any solutions or any teams. But thereafter, there are wheels within wheels, and quite often organisations can be hot one moment on a particular topic, but then the next month it's another issue. So it can be a caravan of ideas. Conversely, smaller businesses are quick and nimble, smaller management structures, and basically they can move to action far more quickly than a big organisation can. So different and similar strengths in some regards, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, agreed. Definitely. All right. So for many business owners in the Greater Springfield and Ipswich region, strategy and consulting may seem distant or high level or not on the forefront of what they do. How do you bring practicality, I guess, and value to business that are right here in the community?
Well, the first of which is that I suppose it's a bad old joke, a consultant is a bloke who asks for your watch and then tells you a time along with an invoice. So people are quite often maybe rightfully fearful of consultants, and consultants perhaps are looking for things that they can immediately put a finger on and say, that's wrong, or you need help. That's not always the case. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the data shows in any business, primarily service, that there's probably a 15% minimum area of improvement that can drop through to the bottom line. In manufacturing is often stated to be far bigger, but the fact of the matter is anybody starting anywhere in a service business could probably find 15%. So it's not about creating a need for yourself, it's really about building trust and rapport with the client to get, I suppose, an ongoing dialogue whereby you've got a safe environment.
Yes.
Otherwise, people are playing a bit like poker. I'm only revealing certain things to you, and vice versa. So if you have a good, open, honest dialogue, then ordinarily what owners of businesses, owner managers are looking for is someone who's sympathetic but not want to be a social worker, and also not trying to create a need for their services.
Yeah, I think I've worked with outside consultants before in different industries, and I think sometimes having just that fresh set of eyes as well, just to kind of look over things. I think sometimes when you're in the trenches and you're doing the day-to-day, you get a bit close to it sometimes. And I think having that consultant come in and maybe open your eyes or just bring a fresh perspective sometimes can just be a bit of a game changer for you. So, all right. What's one of the most common strategic mistakes or blind spots you see among local businesses, and how do you advise them to address it?
80% of business problems are common.
Yes.
That's a fact of life. So if we work off that basis, then most people identify what needs to be done. Most people can probably put their finger on what strategies, although that word sometimes doesn't come as easily to the lips with business owners, and there's a confusion between strategies and tactics.
Yes.
But most people get the right idea what they should be doing. where most of them fall down is that basically it's the execution. And most businesses will either, it could be the right strategy, wrong time, right strategy.
Yes.
It could be the fact that they don't properly resource it, and or that they give up their current line of attack too soon. Or don't leave themselves open to suggestions from people with their best interests at heart to say, well, that bit's working, but perhaps you need to tweak it, change something along the way.
Yes.
And so those are the elements, and it's a difference between addressing something, whether a positive or a negative in terms of opportunity, identifying it, marshalling the resources, where it's time, people or whatever, money,
Yes.
and then in such a way that you get an outcome which sustainable. So the idea is to fix something and then move on, fix something and move on. So you're on this ever increasing, I suppose, climb that you're not having to come back to things that you might have worked on before.
Yes. Yes. I call them 1%ers when I'm working with people. I call them always looking for those 1%ers and trying to find those ways and then sustaining that 1% as you grow. Anyways, in your consulting work, you talk about aligning people, processes and performance. How do you help business leaders achieve that alignment, and what are some of the key signals that things are working?
Well, I thought it was a rather clever phrase when I set the business up over 20 years ago, but because people have different tags and monikers to describe what they think the key elements are. But I suppose if you draw it back to the basics, it's about people. Most of us have either got people basically on board, and they are the most valuable yet the most complex resource to manage.
Yes.
In my past lives, I've done maybe, I think, half a dozen turnarounds of companies that were near terminal. But the thing is, it's about working with the people you've got. You can never get perfection in every position. You have to work with what you got, and grow and develop people. But the whole thing is it's about generating trust, generating a safe environment that people can openly contribute, and you should be drawing upon the skills and experiences of your staff. And to the extent that you're saying, okay, we're going to try this, this is the plan, bring people with you to the extent that they can trust you. And I think in the past where I've had exercises, in terms of turnarounds, that people can be quite fearful about whether they're up to it or whether they're going to be for the chop if this means that there's a headcount reduction. So it's about people. I think it's also incumbent upon leaders to basically... There's a degree of vulnerability you need to demonstrate so that you are not all-knowing, all-seeing, or doing, so that you are just one of them.
Yes.
You are one of them that's been put in this position to hopefully guide them with their assistance. But at the end of the day, you wear the results.
Yes.
And last of which is that, and probably we don't see this often enough, is that for the boss, more than occasionally say, I got it wrong, or, perhaps you were right. It's this admission of humility or the fact that we're all capable of error.
Yeah.
So that was the people part of it. The performance part, basically, at the end of the day, there's always a number. There is always a number. If it's a listed company, there's always a number.
Yes.
And that's a sad fact of life. And I can't give the example that perhaps I gave you in a previous occasion, but it does come back to a number because people are tied up to investments and they have investments, they have superannuation funds, so it needs to be demonstrable. But performance needs to be measured to the extent that even as an owner-manager, there has to be a sensible expectation of return because there's risk in return. You need to be measuring yourself against what's happening in the marketplace so you are not falling behind because then you're at risk.
Yes.
But you're also not trying to drive an agenda that's quite clearly not sensible.
Yes.
You can only force march people for so long and then it becomes counterproductive. So in terms of performance, if you have the open discussions up front, what are we facing, whether positive or negative, how might we address it with the limited resources that we have, because no organisation has unlimited resources, so how might we address it? And then, unfortunate turn of phrase, but factoring that into a deliverable number that if you were, as I have been, pressured to declare results or whatever, that you're doing the right thing by the business, right thing by the customers, and the right thing by your people. If there's a measured, sensible expectation of return, it usually bodes well. If you don't, and you even set yourself as a target for the owner, managers or investors, it'll end up in tears before bedtime because the emphasis will change and then other bad things follow on.
Yes.
So the last which we were saying about processes is every business has processes, but the long or short of it is some of them are rather flexible depending on who you're talking to on the day.
Yes.
And we've had a technique over the past decade is whereby we have something we call member walkthroughs where people from fellow advisory boards will, with the permission of the owner-manager, interview the staff, either on an organised basis or at random. Quite often what an owner-manager thinks is happening at the coalface may bear little or no resemblance to what's actually happening at the coalface.
Correct.
So that feedback has to be garnered together, right, and then presented back to the owner-manager so it's not threatening, but it's the truth,
Yes.
whether good, bad or otherwise. So when we have that back in, so then processes can be objectively looked at and refined to the extent that if something is described as a process, well then it is a process and it's clear to the staff who are not trying to second guess the manager or that the manager really, the process is what they describe from a day-to-day basis. So if you have those things inherent, then it's a good mix. People, performance and process.
Yes, agreed. All right, so with the change and disruption being constant, we've got market, tech, workforce at the moment is always a big topic. How does Periscope help business stay agile and future ready rather than just operating in the moment?
Well, I think the first of which is that you try to create a good, open, honest dialogue to the extent that there is a basis for an ongoing relationship or discussion. It doesn't have to be a forced relationship. If that person knows that there is a basis for a good ongoing relationship, so be it. If nothing else, at the end of that discussion, a bit like yourself, if you're better informed about the other party, then that never hurts.
Yes.
But also, the need may not be then and there, but the need may be downstream for whatever reason. Or also the fact that you've got someone else who may be in your network to say, well, okay, well, maybe they could have use of a chat with Periscope. And so those are the basis. The last of which, coming back to the challenges of all the things you mentioned on the radar there,
Yes.
it's always good, I suppose, to keep in mind that what is it that we're facing that we've never faced before? And there are those people who are in the technology field or even a new management philosophy who, my way of thinking, are always quick to jump on the next best thing or the next new thing to the extent that a lot of noise and motion goes on and maybe a bit of fear of missing out. But having been in a technology industry for decades, a lot of stuff that was touted as the next big thing quite often either gets overestimated to the extent that people perhaps focus incorrectly, and there are other undercurrents that are always going to be there without the swings and roundabouts. So for me, resource is always a killer. Every business that I'm involved with are always reduced by their ability to address the current and available demand by lack of people.
Yes.
People is the biggest killer. So when we move into the Olympics, having lived and worked in Sydney during the time that led up to the Olympics, you get a crunch, you get a compression of deadlines, and quite often people will throw money, whether it's material resources or people. So that'll test relationships between employers and their staff, or even getting and keeping new people. And the last of which is AI is yet another tool to be used, but so long as people keep it in the right context.
Yes, agreed. I agree. I think people are a bit scared. The AI one at the moment is everyone's running around about it, scared about the impacts and how it's going to impact business. And like you said, I think we've had other technology changes in the past. We've had those scares. We've come through it. I think the same will happen again. All right, next section that we want to get onto is our quick fire getting to know you section, where we're going to throw a couple of questions at you. So, coffee or iced coffee to kick off a strategy session?
Okay, my question to you is, you've got such beautiful deep blue eyes.
Yes.
Okay, see, there we go. And what's the answer?
Thanks.
Okay, all right, next question. Coffee.
Coffee, yes.
Got you laughing finally.
You did, yes. Boardroom whiteboard, love it or avoid it?
Whiteboards, love them.
Love them, yeah. One book or resource you'd always recommend for business leaders?
Off the top of my head, John Kenneth Galbraith, The Age of Uncertainty.
Name one business you admire and why?
I think they're called Orange Sky.
Okay.
And they're a brilliant organisation because a business does not have to be for profit a business is something that's organised to fulfil or satisfy a need, and that business is just brilliant. Started by two young school leavers, gone Australia-wide. If you don't know about it, check it out.
Yes, I do know about that one.
Not-for-profit,
yes, yeah, wonderful business. And one word to describe how you feel when a strategy plan you created starts to pay off. Champagne moments.
Well, it's two words. I actually I struggled with this. I struggled with it because you were there to help people to the next position.
Yes.
Yeah, and so what is it? I thought of warm inner glow. I was right. No, but I think the word that I settled on after a bit of reflection was encouraged, because the feedback is there. We're heading in a right direction. Where to next?
Yes. Agreed. All right, so we're going to look at what's ahead. So what trends or shifts are you seeing now that will shape how businesses in our region compete and grow over the next 5 years?
I think most businesses in our region, with the exception of maybe a couple of that come to mind, most businesses in this region, I think, are more tactical. They're really just addressing things as they arise and really trade from day to day.
Yep.
Well, they say, planning to failure to plan is a plan for failure.
Yes.
So I think that, whilst a lot of people talk about business plans and strategies and execution, that it's something that's available to everybody. So in terms of what's open to people, well, we're in a zone which I suppose sits in under the Ipswich region, but there's going to be plenty of opportunities. But it's really trying to having a detached view, but a sensible view of the opportunities that are available.
So for business owners then that are listening today, what's one piece of strategic advice that you would give them right now to move from working in the business to working on the business?
It actually was two, but I'll put it in a few words as possible. It's discipline yourself to set aside the time, then take small structured steps.
Yep. I would agree. I think the biggest problem and challenge I face myself is we don't put the time aside, and then we get caught in the day-to-day whirlwind. And then we get to the end of the week and we go, I wanted to get that done this week, and I didn't. Yeah. Yes.
Now, Eisenhower had four categories, and basically there was urgent and important, not urgent but important.
Yes.
Not important but urgent, and the other was not important and not urgent. So basically what you have four categories, and you basically only address the first two and you flick the rest, so long as you have people to flick the rest to.
Perfect. All right, well, thank you for coming in and having a chat, making me laugh and staring at my blue eyes. And thank you for tuning into the latest episode of the GSBC podcast. Make sure to like and follow us on all of our social media channels, and that's it for us for now.